Hello and welcome back. Life of Chai, vegetarian and vegan food blog. It's been a long time, over a year actually, and I've had a lot of requests. Well, I've had a lot of requests for two things: another video and how to make Pico de Gallo. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you guys how to make Pico de Gallo, a classic fresh salsa from Mexico that we use in so many dishes. We use it on top of tacos, put it on top of any dish, any Mexican plate, keep it on the table. It's a fresh salsa. I like, personally, I put it on top of my salad, any salad, and it gives it a little extra spice, little hot, pica, we say. Okay, bring it down. And this is what we got today. So first of all, I wanted to show you a little bit about knives. Typically you have a chef knife and you're gonna do all your cutting with that. What? It's not cutting. That's why we have what we call a tomato knife, okay? And I know many of you probably never heard of, I never heard of a tomato knife until I started working in the restaurant industry. But this is a serrated knife. Probably you call it a bread knife, but it works amazingly well on soft vegetables and fruits, strawberries and whatnot. And then this will be the regular knife that we cut most everything else with. If these two knives feel a little bit large in your hand, you can get a smaller serrated knife and a smaller straight knife too. So these are totally acceptable, these smaller knives, but for today's video, we're going to be using these bigger knives. So I'm going to start with how to cut a tomato, then I'm going to progress on how we cut and de-seed the chili. Onion and cilantro are pretty straightforward. The other thing I wanted to do before we start is that, again, this is going to be a fresh salsa. You can see that the ingredients here are all fresh vegetables, and that is different than your bottled or cooked salsas, which are, in Mexico, salsa, we use salsa for the fresh sauce or the cooked version. And in America, this type of would be called a sauce, a hot sauce, and this is going to be a salsa. Okay, so in Spanish and Mexico, they're all salsas, but this is a salsa fresca. Okay, so we're going to start with the tomato, and you can cut it this way. I like to start cutting it this way, and you notice how this serrated knife just really makes quick work of that tomato. The other thing I'm doing here is I'm cutting it at a certain size. I'm cutting it at about a 1/4 inch, a little bit over a 1/4 inch. I take a couple of these and so you're making little cubes, little evenly, and it's a little bit hard. It's, tomato. Do the best you can. Okay, that wasn't the best I've ever done before. Let's see what happens with this one. So you cut once, you cut, turn it. So yeah, if you cut a few less at a time. I got a little bowl here. I'm going to put them in the bowl. Like that. Now I started with one tomato. If you're making salsa for yourself, which I do a lot of times, I will just make one tomato. Again, if you want to make more salsa, you do 2 tomatoes, but then the proportion of everything else is going to be according to that. So here's 1 tomato. And now these are big Serranos. I'm using Serrano. I prefer Serrano over jalapeno. These are big. A lot of times they're half the diameter and a lot shorter. So this is going to be pretty spicy. Here I use the straight knife, get rid of and you want to cut it in half, lengthwise. And then to take the seeds out, use your knife like this. In some salsas, in some of the cooked sauces, the red sauce, for instance, we'll actually use the seeds. And in others, like Pico de Gallo, we're going to take them out. And everyone actually has their own personal preference. So some people may, in some households, they may lost a little bit there. They may choose to keep some of the seeds, but remember that the seeds are a lot more spicy. The green is spicy. The green is going to be spicy, but the seeds are even more spicy. So we get rid of those. Then you take this, and it's going to be easier to cut it on the inside. This is kind of hard and slippery, but if you cut from on the inside, it cuts a lot easier. I'm making even strips again, just like I did. You want to do everything evenly, and then when you do cut it for the final cut, you got nice little diced pieces. You can see how I do that all nice and even. Take it this way, square it up. And I want kind of small pieces because I want it to be bland. I don't want to get a big chunk of pepper in my mouth. I don't think anybody does. So you can cut this. And of course, this is where you would want to use this straight knife as opposed to that serrated knife. Holding it together. A lot of times I'll use a spatula to lift things up with. It works really well, like that. Okay, next we have onion. Again, this knife is going to be the preferred knife. I'm going to I'm doing everything with proportion. Some people like onion, some people don't. You need to have some onion in there, and white onion is preferred, although you can use a red onion. Yellow onion, no. But typically, it's white, and you could use red. Notice how I'm cutting it very thin, and I'm going to just cut a couple of slices out of there. Take off this paper. Maybe even the next layer, because that's kind of tough too. That one layer. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing here to keep it together so that we can cut it and end up with nice, tiny little pieces. Actually, this part. So I'm looking at that onion, I'm thinking, is that going to be a proportion that I want, or do I want more? Again, if you have someone that doesn't like a lot of onion, that's probably enough. A spoon. You can see how that's, and then you can judge the proportion already, and that looks like enough onion for me. Perfect. Okay, so now what? Now we have the last ingredient is cilantro. And I'm just gonna, I wash this cilantro. By the way, I wash out everything in advance. I wash the chilies, the tomatoes, and the cilantro was washed and then dried. And I'm gonna, in a pinch, you could use some of that stem, but I prefer not to. If I have enough cilantro, I'm just going to use the leaves. You can pull it right off the stem. Get rid of those little stems. This really doesn't take that long. Get a little bit more cilantro. We like cilantro. So sometimes you go backward against the stem and it comes off real easy. If you notice that, just kind of pull really quick. Let's see, a little bit more. So this, again, this Pico de Gallo, we're going to put it right on top of a taco. It's great right on top of beans. I put it on top of the rice. Okay, so to chop it up, we're going to bring it into a little bowl. Notice I used the towel and I cleaned all that tomato juice off. You want to You want a dry cutting board when you're working with cilantro, so otherwise it's going to be sticking to the board. I'm going to put it into a little ball like that and kind of hold it with my fingers, and then use the straight knife again and that is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Add that to the mix. And you're just about done. I like to put a little bit of salt in it. Some people will add lemon. You'll see, or lime. You'll see that in a lot of recipes where they'll add some lime. Some people like to add a little olive oil. I just prefer to keep it simple like this, and it is ready. Okay, there's a question. What do you do with, this is going to change. This is salsa fresca. It's perfect for today. It's tomorrow, the tomato is going to change. The onion is going to get a little old. Don't throw it away. That's where we make huevos a la Mexicana. The next day, if you have any Pico de Gallo left, throw it in a skillet, saute it a little bit, and then crack your eggs in there and mix it up and have a scrambled egg. That's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and stay tuned for the next installment of The Life of Chai. If you can, hit that subscribe button, like it. Thank you so much. Bye.